Hello guys, today I welcome skiing legend and TV broadcaster Chemmy Alcott onto the show. Chemmy is recognised as Britain's greatest ever female skier, having competed in 4 Olympic Games and across all 5 disciplines of alpine skiing. Chemmy was kind enough to welcome me into her home despite being 1 week away from giving birth, and at the time of this introduction recording, Chemmy and her husband Dougie have welcomed the birth of their second child, so congratulations are in order. Chemmy was very introspective during our conversation, in which we delve into the psychology of performance and bouncing back from setbacks. We also explore how Chemmy was able to unlock her natural potential after priming her mind to allow her to risk giving 100% on her performances, risking failure and injury. We also discuss family life, being a new mum, and navigating the various stages of life. I found this a fascinating conversation and one I really enjoyed. I hope you do too. Thank you, Chemmy, for inviting me into your home and talking to me about your life story.
No worries.
Could we start at kind of the origin? Like, what was your kind of entrance into sport, and did you come from a sporting family, and was it always kind of earmarked for you to become an athlete? Or?
This makes my parents sound really pushy, but I felt like I was almost made to be a ski racer.
Yeah.
So my dad was a rugby player, quite highly competitive. My mum was a swimmer. She quit swimming because of injury, but as a really high level. So I always say genetically I got his glutes and her lungs, which are 2 very important kind of power phases to be a skier.
Yeah.
And I was made to be it, but also, and this is a massive contributing factor, I think, to anyone who strives to be the best they can in sport, I'm the youngest of a big family. So I've got 3 older brothers, 2 natural ones and 1 foster brother. Okay. And by the time I was born, my eldest brother was already skiing. He'd been talent ID just on a French ski holiday, but he was naturally good at everything. And they'd said, oh, this 8-year-old, he could race. The French ski school, like, oh, we should take him under our wing. So by the time I was born, he was already racing. And he was my idol. So I was like, right, I want to do what he's doing. Mm. So I kind of just fell into it at 18 months old, which is mental.
Yeah.
I'm born in July, and my second Christmas I was skiing.
Wow. So what was your capability at 18 months old? Like, how
I was terrible. I was terrible. And all the videos, everyone said, oh, you must have been so naturally talented because you went on to have such a career. I was terrible and I was so frustrated. I'm still bad now when I start something quite technical and I'm not good straight away. I want to be talented straight away. And I could see my brothers skiing together. And yet I was having to do this snow plough, on this baby slope. And I used to get so angry. I was bribed. One of my first weeks of skiing, I got this fake raccoon's tail that I then attached to my helmet. And I skied every single day until I was 11. I lost it once down a waterfall. And my mum managed to persuade the French helicopter guys who were out there to go and fetch it for me because I was so superstitious that I couldn't ski without this silly raccoon's tail.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got bribed. Sweets, chocolates. And then finally I was good enough to enjoy it. Because I think it is quite frustrating when you're, especially at that age, 18 months old, not many people are choosing to ski, choosing to be cold.
But you sound like you have quite vivid memories even from being...
No, I just watched a lot of videos because, as I said, everyone said, oh, you must have been really good. And actually for years I said I won a race when I was 3, which is what, started my career. And finally, about 5 years ago, my dad said to me, I just read this interview again where you said that you won this race at 3. And I'm like, oh yeah, because I know I got that teddy and it's got a medal around its neck. And he said, you didn't win. I was like, oh, I must have been good. I mean, was I not talented when I was younger? And he said, no, you stopped to give me a kiss on the way down. It wasn't that the fastest path to take. So I was following my mum down this race, and it was an under 5 race. And I saw my dad and went over, gave him a kiss, and then they're like, right, keep going this way. But because I got this teddy, and because I still have this teddy, and I bring it out all the time with his medal, I thought, oh, I must have been really good when I was young, and I won. Yeah. And finally he told me that no, I wasn't any good.
Okay. But then you kept going and you kept competing as a child.
Yeah, so I absolutely loved it. But it was definitely a holiday thing. We did it at Christmas, at Easter, when my parents bought this tiny apartment in Flen. And we loved it. It was a family holiday thing. And then I realised that I could keep up with the boys. There weren't many girls of my age around in the kind of English community out there, so I skied with the boys. And I never saw myself as anything but a boy when I was growing up, I think because of the brothers thing and all my friends were guys. So it really made me push myself to a higher level. And I think that's very much helped me because that shows that psychologically, I was strong at the very beginning. I didn't show any weaknesses. I didn't use gender for any. Actually, with ski racing when I was younger in the UK, it wasn't gender specific. So the girls and the boys raced together. Okay. Which I think is really good, because I realised that if I could beat the boys, I was talented. Although I still meet guys now who tell me that I ruined their life because I was this little girl who beat them and they got this chip on their shoulder, like, I could have been. Yeah. And I'm like, pipe it down.
They never forgot it.
Yeah.
So then, at what point did you have to then get more into the kind of the physical training elements of it as well? Because you had the kind of background and the natural talent. Yeah. Where did you have to start putting it all together?
Well, when I was young, about the age of 8, I used to also play tennis. So I thought my dream, and I've got this dream written down that's quite cheesy, but I thought I was going to be a tennis player in the summer and a skier in the winter. Okay. So I love tennis. And then at 11, I cracked my humerus and I was 2 millimetres away from paralysing my arm. It was a really bad crash. And I couldn't play tennis for 6 months. And that's where I was like, right, I'm going to be a ski racer. And I started doing physical training with it. Actually, unfortunately, when I came back from that, I then had a really nasty crash where I broke my neck and on landing it fused together. So I had kind of 2 really big injuries back to back when I was young. But I don't remember them being difficult at all.
Really?
I remember getting popular because of my injuries, because they made me stand out as someone who was doing something unique. And at school, I got to wear different clothes because if people bumped into me, it was dangerous. Like my neck fusion, obviously it took a little while to heal, but it meant that I could stay inside at lunch, so someone was allowed to stay inside with me, and that made me popular. Like, it's such a bizarre range of circumstances, because if that happened today, life would be really different. But yes, that was my commitment. Even though both of those were skiing related, those crashes, that's when I was like, this is it, I want to do it. And then I came back from that and went to the World Children's Olympics, which was really made up to be a mini Olympics. And we walked under the British flag and all the clothing, and I won. I managed to win. And it was like, right, okay, this is it. I've got the talent. I'm going to dedicate it to it. And I started running around the local park. And when I say fitness, it was literally, Marble Hill Park is about 800 metres. That's how I started. Once around that, and then we did sections where I balanced on a tree and I sprinted, and my dad would be on his 1970 bike, being pulled along by our Great Dane, and I would be trying to chase them. And that was our fitness. There wasn't much science involved. Yeah. But I think that's very important because it was my choice. I was driving that. It wasn't my parents going, we need to get up in the winter when it's dark and take you out and get you fit. I was like, I want to do it.
So you had that kind of self-motivation to do the training?
Massively. Yeah. I mean, some of the decisions I made when I was young, being a coach now and coaching the same age group, I think, oh my God, I was so obsessed. I mean, at 10 years old, I went down to New Zealand for 3 months on my own.
Wow.
Yeah. I remember it was on my local dry ski slope, and there was this poster on the wall saying about this new program in New Zealand for Brits, and I think you had to be 13 years old or something, and this is before the internet, so that was all the information I got, and there was a telephone number, and I remember coming home, climbing on top of the kitchen unit and calling the number and having this long conversation with this guy in Scotland saying, look, I want to be on this programme, I want to go to New Zealand. And he's like, well, do you know where New Zealand is? And I said, yes, I know, it's very far away. And he's like, well, what do your parents think? I'm like, well, I'm getting the information from you before I talk to them. I was 10.
Wow. I mean, it's a significant trip at any age, isn't it? To go down under and
then that evening I said to my mum, so I found this programme. She knew that I love skiing. I said, I found this programme. I want to go to New Zealand. And my mum said, look, well, this is a family decision. We've got to talk about it, the finances, the sacrifice to your brothers. Because she was presuming that we'd all have to go. And I said, no, I can go alone. And then anyway, that night she called this guy in Scotland who ended up becoming my coach for about 8 years. And they agreed that I was driven enough, and he wanted to do this test with the younger athlete. And it was epic. I cried on the way home on the airplane because I didn't want to come home.
Really?
Yeah.
After 3 months still?
Yeah. And this is before the internet. This is before mobile phones. I had a calling card. So every Tuesday night I would call home. That was it.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot of independence.
Hard for the parent, I think, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing that my parents could support me that way.
What was your life like over there? Like, because who was sort of did you need sort of looking after?
I stayed with a family.
Yeah. Oh, so it was like a host family.
Yeah, stayed with a host family, and then I walked at 5:30 every morning to the bus station, and we went and trained all day, and then we did fitness. And there were only 8 kids in this program, so it was really small. We met up every afternoon for fitness, and it was the dream.
Yeah.
And that's why when we set up our business, my husband and I, when we both retired, our first trip was to New Zealand, because it had such a big impact on both of us in terms of our professionalism, in terms of our development as both athletes and as people. So that was our first camp.
Wow. Okay. But when you had the injury as a young adult, did you get any resistance for going back into the sport after that? Did anybody sort of say like...
Not that time. No. That time when I was young, I bounced back from that. The resistance I have felt from my family and my closest friends was after I broke my leg in 2010, and I decided to come back, and everyone said, look, you've had such a good go at the sport, you've now got this metal right leg, why don't you move on with life? That was the first time they said it. But no one understands what drives you. I didn't choose to become a skier because I wanted to be famous or make money. I really love it. If I could still do it today, I would. But my body's packed it in. And that's why I give back with the coaching. I love doing the Ski Sunday and the Olympic stuff, and maybe also why I quite hurried into having a family, so that I could say that I can't come back to it. It's not a sport that's easy to come back to once you've had kids, especially when you're going 90 miles an hour and you've got to put yourself on the line. So that also possibly was why I was like, right, I want to have a kid so that I can definitely quit.
It's a kind of a definite commitment to not going back into it.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, in terms of then, you're doing the camps in New Zealand, and you were doing those multiple.
Yeah, I did that every summer. Yeah.
Yeah, and then at what point did you kind of get into the international scene?
Oh, around 11, 12, 13, that's when you start racing internationals. The British children's team goes to 2 every year, and you have a ranking, and your race ranking depends on where you can go. So Topolino is like the big one to go to. And yeah, already I was doing that. So started making friends internationally. Yeah. It was an amazing sport. That's where tennis completely got pushed to the side, because I couldn't hack it in tennis. It was such a psychological battle, a war against the girl opposite me. And in that it came nastiness and bitchiness and, people trying to psych you out, which is part of the game. And, you're crossing the net and people say stuff to each other. I couldn't handle it. I wanted to be everyone's friend. I'm a people person, and I really struggled. And yet in skiing, I think because there's that danger aspect, and because you respect your peers, because you're going your hardest and you're really racing the mountain. You're not racing someone else. Your times are compared against each other, but you go out there and do your best. It's not dependent on someone else. And that's where I was like, look, this is a sport I love. I love the travelling, and I'm making amazing friendships. And I was like, okay, tennis.
So there's much more camaraderie across nations.
Huge. I mean, my best friends are still girls I raced against.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe also that was a fact that because I was the only Brit at the time, so I had to be very social because I didn't want to be alone on the mountain, so I would always be training with other people. But no, I think everyone builds up really good friendship. There was a group of about 7 of us who almost every week on the World Cup would meet for dinner, for a pizza or pasta night. Somewhere, wherever we were, whether we were in Italy or Bulgaria or whatever, we would take time away from our race team and just be girls who are living the dream.
And you've maintained those friendships all the way through, and because you always share that experience, and it's a kind of
it's quite unique, because you have to have a few screws loose to be a skier, and you make a few decisions that, like coming back from injury and some of the paths you choose that other people don't necessarily understand. You have this bond that can never be broken.
And in terms of the decisions you make, like, did you have to make a significant sacrifice in your sort of young adult years?
I didn't really see it as a sacrifice because I loved it so much. But yeah, I remember actually having one really difficult conversation with my girlfriends at school, because they started inviting me to things, and I always had to say no because I was always busy. And I always had these commitments, and sometimes I even flew for the weekend out to France to ski. So this was when EasyJet came out, and my parents bought all these £5 flights. So I would literally go on the Friday and come back on the Monday morning. and come to school. So I missed that kind of social life, but I didn't mind that. What I struggled with was the fact that the girls, my friends, stopped asking me to join them.
Okay.
And I said, look, I know, and you know that I'm going to have to say no, but I want to feel like you want me there. If I didn't have to say no. So that was probably quite frustrating for them, because they always asked and I said no, but it made me feel much more part of the group.
You wanted to know that you were still in their thoughts,
Yeah. But I don't see it as, I mean, the gains I had, my brothers retired from the sport because of it, because they didn't want to miss nights out with their friends. They missed that bonding experience and that social experience. They missed that. I didn't. I think because I'm quite social and I talk to anyone, I can get that on a chairlift. I ain't been a chairlift. I can make a friend.
Yeah. And you would regularly do that because you were the only Brit for a certain period.
You go one way or the other.
Yeah.
You become really introverted and you just focus on you and you become quite serious, or you go, right, I need to express myself and make friends and talk to people.
Yeah. Okay. And then in terms of the training, when did the training become more scientific in terms of like putting together macro cycles? Like when you were first training for the Olympics, for example, were you working on like a 4-year macro cycle?
My A-level years. So there was an Olympics 9 months or 6 months after I left school in Salt Lake in 2002. And I really wanted that to be an aim, because I felt like Nagano beforehand was kind of on the limit to me. I was really young, but I could have qualified, but we were like, right, let's wait till I'm 19. So my A-levels, I gave myself this ultimatum, which was ridiculous. And I said, look, if I get 4 A's in my A-levels, then I can become a ski bum for the rest of my life, because no one will judge me. They'll know that I had options. And I remember I got 3 A's and a B, and I was distraught. And then I had the B remarked, and thankfully it turned to an A. But anyway, it was just about me proving that I wasn't a ski racer because I didn't have anything else. I did. I've got other wings to my bow. But that was those 2 years. I was so supported by my school. Really small A-level group. I think I had like around 8 in maximum in one of my classes and 4 in another, and around that in the other 2. So literally they were so supportive. I would do physical training on the way to school. I would do it at lunchtime. That's where the science came involved.
And you must have been quite good at time management to be able to study and train.
It was brutal.
Yeah.
When I mentor young people now, I say that they are the hardest years of your life, because you're trying to be 2 completely different things, 2 completely different achievements. But if you can get through them, they set you up for life because of the organisation skills, the time management, the ability to stay in the present, which I really struggled with at first. I remember doing a sprint session and going to class, and I hadn't achieved what I wanted in that sprint session. So then I had this exam and I couldn't focus on the exam because I was stressed, because I knew I could have done better that morning in my physical training session. And so it took a little bit of a hit for me to go, okay, right, whatever happens with this program, I've got to stay in the present. And that's quite difficult for young people.
And what's the psychology of like that for an athlete in terms of, because when we talk about like sort of fitness training, you've done the workout, so you've created the stimulus and you're going to get the result. But for an athlete, it's about the performance. So do you sometimes come away from a training session feeling that you haven't given it your all, or you didn't perform well? And how long does that kind of last before you can right that?
Yeah, massively. I mean, I really struggled with the low-level sessions when I was younger. So I could go and lift weights. I could go and do the sprints. That was fine because I knew I was pushing my body. What I hated was the flexibility, the low-level core, all the connections, which I didn't have to grunt for. So I pushed those to the side because I was like, well, I don't feel like I'm achieving. And it took a lot of education for me, and maybe that would have changed if I'd actually focused on that earlier in my career. Then my injuries might later maybe have less. But for me, I just wanted to sweat and work hard, because then I got an outcome. So those sessions that are imperative because they mean that you can work hard because you're putting your body in the better condition, I would definitely push to the side a lot.
So when you're coaching athletes now, do you say that there needs to be a bit more yin and yang to that?
Yeah. And pregnancies really help that, actually, because I've learned what my body needs me to do as opposed to what I think I need to do.
Yeah. So like an instinctive.
Yeah.
Yeah. An
listen to yourself. Feeling. I never listened to my body. You know, I had these amazing abs. I but I had no control of them. They were just like these massive, like bracing abs. I didn't have any finesse at all.
So just all power.
All power.
Yeah.
Bull in a china shop. Terrible on flats. It meant that my technique on flats was terrible because I could never calm down. I found flats in skiing boring. I was just waiting. Come on, impatient.
Yeah.
And that's 50% of the battle in ski racing, possibly more.
Yeah. So coaching athletes now, do you encourage them to do things like Pilates and yoga and movement? And
loads. Yeah.
And in a way that it doesn't interfere with the high output sessions. Like, how do you kind of like plan a training phase?
I mean that's why sport like skiing's pretty amazing, because it's power, it's endurance, it's flexibility, it's everything. Whereas there's a lot of sports out there that you have to train the same movement pattern for the whole time. Whereas we are dealing with a mountain with terrain and snow conditions that change and adapt. So you've got to be versatile. And everything changes. It's not a 100-meter track that's always on a 100-meter track.
Yeah.
We've got so much undulating terrain, and that makes it really exciting. That's why ski races tend to do well in superstars when we used to have it back in the day. I'm showing my age. But because you have to tick so many boxes in terms of what you're physically good at. And because of that, you get to so much variety in training, which makes it really fun. But you do need to be taught the importance of... So some people need to be taught the importance of the high-end stuff. I didn't, because I'm, all or nothing. I needed that kind of finesse, and I wish I'd done that earlier.
Okay, and when did the kind of like the scientific approach to nutrition come into it for you?
Around that same time.
Yeah.
It comes in quite early in skiing, especially if you're wanting to be a downhiller, because I was looking at the track. So when the Olympics is announced, you look at the 4-year cycle and you look at how you want your weight, your power ratio and everything to be for that next 4 years. So some of the tracks that I did were steep to flats. So then I wanted quite a lot of body mass to keep me going on those flats. Other ones were, all over the shot, like Vancouver. And so I wanted to be lighter so I could be more agile. And you did try and change. I mean, you have a natural body type. You can't fight too much, but a couple of kilos here and there can help. It also depended on what my aims were. So I started off being more of a technical skier, so more agile, having power, but being able to move that power base, and then moving towards downhill towards the end of my career, which was, all about that endurance, weight, but weight in a positive way.
And you must need an incredibly strong core to be able to lean and come back. Yeah.
I mean, you're holding a G-force of around 7 sometimes in downhill. So that everything comes from here.
So will that be a combination of sort of compound lifts, plyometric training, mobility work?
Yeah. Adapting. That's why I'm saying, it's so versatile with the training. It's a really fun sport to train for.
Yeah. And then in terms of nutrition, were there particular kind of guidelines you would follow for performance?
Yes.
Like,
and different times a year.
Different times a year.
So I always finish the season with a few extra kilos. Yeah. Always, from touring around the winters and eating what I could. We didn't have kitchens. We stayed in hotels, so you had to try and do the best you could. So our first phase would be a cutting phase, an endurance phase. So we'd do up to 6 hours of endurance a day, all road biking to build up the VMOs, check the knees. I also used to have to do weight loss then, so I would have caffeine and then first thing in the morning, and then go out for a slow jog.
On an empty stomach, other than the caffeine? Yeah.
So get my metabolism really fired up, spiked for the day. And you wouldn't even do any lifting then for a couple of months until your body was in the right shape for the endurance. Because the thing is, you need all this power, but you're spending 6 months at altitude. You've got to have an endurance base as well. And then you kind of move into the lifting, and then you go to the hypertrophy, and then you go to that single lift, race lift the day before. I love that bit. The end range, the end of the year was much more fun for me. Yeah.
And then how would you know psychologically? How would you know that you had peaked for an event, like going into the Olympics? Would you know you'd got it?
No, that's what I found really tough, and that's where all the science in the world tries to help you. But in skiing, if you don't peak week in, week out from the end of October, your start numbers increase, and then you have to contend with ruts, so then you don't put yourself in the best possible chance. So it's a really hard sport to peak for an Olympics for one event. I really struggled with that. Actually, I was better at peaking for the Olympics than world champs. If you look at all my world champs, I think I did 8 world champs and I never had a great result. the Olympics was better for me, and that's because Team GB and the science get involved. But I found that really tough because you'd have to perform every weekend.
And then would athletes...
And it was more reliant on the track. So the more difficult and challenging the track was, the better I would be, because I had no finesse.
Okay.
So that was taken out of my control.
You could utilise your power to get through. Yeah. And would some athletes come in undertrained or overtrained for events? Was that obvious to see, or? No.
I mean, I remember a couple of athletes, and only a couple, used to take a little bit. They'd maybe miss one race before an Olympic cycle and go and do a recovery camp. But it takes a lot of guts to do that because of your world ranking in the World Cup. Because as big as the Olympics is, to win the World Cup overall and to improve your seeding in World Cup is imperative for your development and improvement in the sport. So that's really tough. And that's because it's an outdoor sport with nature. And, people always say to me, I'm watching the skiing and it's so unfair because, the Brits are starting back in the 30s and they're racing these people on a clean track. I'm like, that's what you have to do. That's what you have to go through. You start at the back and you have to chip away at it.
And is it hard?
It seems unfair.
Is it harder for Brits because we don't grow up in an alpine environment, or?
Yes, maybe. But we have this true Brit style and this grit where you tick every other box more. You become psychologically stronger, physically stronger. You're the underdog. You're always the underdog. Even Dave Riding, who's almost winning, he's right there up at the top. He's still an underdog because he's from Britain and he grew up in Pendle Dry Ski Slope. So that is a strength for you. That's what I always used it as. I remember when I won the second run in Solden in Austria in October 2008, and there were 30,000 Austrians in the crowd. And they were like, oh my God, where has this girl come from? She's from London. How is she beating our girls who, Austrian, born on the white stuff? And they just think you've popped up from nowhere. You obviously haven't. You've been grafting forever. But I think you can choose how you use that. And I used it as an advantage. No one expects anything from me.
So and that underdog status kind of worked for you.
It did, yeah. And it does work for quite a lot of the Brits who are doing well right now.
Because it relieves the pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But having said that, then, if you look at the aims of Team GB in winter sports, they're saying in the next 10, 15 years, they want to be a top 5 nation in winter sports. And we've proved it in freestyle skiing. They're incredible under Pat Sharples. And the skeleton athletes again and again have proved that we've got the talent without having any tracks. Bobsleigh, there's so many of them who are proving people wrong. So actually the expectations do start to increase.
And is that shift happening because we're getting athletes out to alpine conditions and the science is improving? And,
yeah. I mean, these British athletes, their commitment to and their sacrifice is huge. They spend their whole time out there, in the mountains.
Yeah. And then, at what point in your career would you say that you knew you were getting kind of psychological priming for performance, or was it always there? Because you had that initiative at 10 years old.
Yeah, I think with my parents being athletes themselves, I think it was always there.
Yeah.
Like at 5, this is crazy, but at 5 years old, I remember coming down saying to my mum, I've just had the best dream, great dream. I won the Olympics in skiing. And she was like, no way, write it down. And I was like, no, I don't write it down. She's like, write it down, write your dream down. And I remember a few years afterwards, she kept making me keep that piece of paper out. And a few years after, I said, why do you keep going back to this? She's like, well, that dream is going to take a brutal amount of sacrifice. It's going to be a roller coaster. It's going to be really tough. I want you to keep the purity of a 5-year-old who just has the passion and the belief that they can do it. So, that's psychology. That's huge psychology from a young age. Yeah. So I think maybe I was also in that environment where my parents knew about sport.
Yeah, that's huge, isn't it? That visualization and understanding of the sacrifice to come. Yeah. So is that something that you're cognizant of now as a mother? Yes.
I think as a parent, the best thing you can do is, it's such a fine line, but give your child the confidence to believe that they can be whoever they want to be.
Yeah.
Now, with that, Lockie falls over 10 times a day. I have to pick him up and he has to learn where his limits are. And that's really hard to watch because you as a parent, as anyone, you can see inevitably, he's going to he's going to fall over in a second. But I need to let him do that.
Yeah.
He needs to learn.
Yeah. Is that because you can't account for safety, but you can help foster strength?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Really fine line.
Really fine line,
Yeah.
It must take a lot of discipline to kind of allow that to
especially with your first child.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm worried about this one, because if I can do that with Lockie, this one, poor thing. Yeah, just go jump it. You'll find out.
Yeah. And then in terms of like that, to go deeper into the psychology, it's quite a thing to throw your body around the course like that at such speed, like knowing that the physical consequences can be quite dire every time you go out. How do you get your head around that? Like, can you afford to have that as a thought process, or is it just something that you always known?
Well, I almost, for about 8 years of my life, I had a massive fear of failure. It was my peak time. It's the one thing I look back on and wish I could have worked harder on, because I had such an amazing team around me. I was one of Sir Clive Woodward's prodigies, and I had like coaches left, right, and centre there to help me with my performance. And I couldn't ski harder than 80%. Because I was so scared that if I went 100% and still didn't win, I'd have to admit to myself and all this team that I wasn't good enough. So I found this comfortable platform of performance, and it was good enough to be the best in Britain, and on the world stage it was okay, but it wasn't my best, and I was choosing to withhold that because
you knew it.
I knew it.
Yeah, you knew it.
Yeah, I knew it. I say I knew it. I was really fast in training. In training, I was able to push myself. So I used to win in training. People used to ask to train with me because they knew I'd be so fast. But I would choke in a race because I was so scared I put in so much to this sport that if I did go my best and hardest and it wasn't good enough, it would have been brutal for me to handle. So I kept skiing within myself, and that was really hard. I didn't crash in those years. I was consistent, but it was really unsatisfying. And it took me to put myself in a position where I could go all out to realise that I'd been holding back. That's the time I realised. And I'd had this really bad first run, and we thought I hadn't qualified for the second run. You had to be top 30. So I was driving with my coach down the mountain, and he was so angry at me because I'd been skiing so well in training and I hadn't even qualified, not top 30. And then someone was disqualified, so I was back in, and I U-turn back up to the top. I missed inspection, completely unprofessional. I had to inspect from the gondola up because we were so late, and I stood in that start gate and there was no pressure on. I was like, you know what, nothing can happen from this run. I have no expectation, and that's what was the best of me. I had no expectation, so I could ski free, just like training. And that was when I won the run in front of all these Austrians, and I was like, right. And it wasn't my perfect skiing, but I realised that I could do it. And everyone else had believed in me for so long. But I remember I was elated at the bottom. I was in the winners' enclosures for so long, and I was so happy. And everyone was like, yeah, we knew you had it in you. It was a kind of strange thing, because that's when I saw everyone's belief in me was right. And from then, unfortunately, I broke my ankle a couple of months afterwards. And that's when a lot of my injuries started. But it was so much more satisfying to ski because I knew that I was going to go on the limit. I knew when I was in that start gate, I was going to go all out and crash or be quite fast.
Wow. And you
I made that choice.
You made that choice, and you were comfortable with the consequences of that because you knew you would be giving it your all.
Yeah.
So you'd be able to live with that. Yeah.
And I'd lived in this safety zone for 8 years where I hadn't got hurt, really. I know it shouldn't all be about a helicopter coming to rescue you, but that's why I never feared crashing. Yeah.
On the that kind of British strength, I in preparation for our interview, I saw a crash you had, and that ability to just to get to stand straight up again afterwards that's kind of like a
I mean, you do that quite a lot to convince yourself you're okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and then the adrenaline's huge. I mean, I did it. I broke my leg and stood straight up because I knew something was bad, but I didn't want to admit to it. So I was like, right now I'm fine, get me the skidoo, let's go to the top. And as I was on the skidoo, I felt my lower leg dropping and clicking every time. And I was like, well, this was just before my last Olympics in Sochi, 6 months before. And I got to the top and the physio was there. The physio is always at the start to put you in the start gate. I was skiing with the Norwegian ski team. She said, you okay? I heard you had a big crash. I'm like, yeah. my leg's clicking a bit. She's like, oh, just sit down a second. And she literally grabbed my knee and my lower leg and was like, oh my God. And then the helicopter came and flew me all the way. I had an hour helicopter ride to Zurich for this emergency surgery. And I'd broken my leg, but I was so, I just was so adamant that I could still ski, even with this, that I went up to the start to go again.
Wow. And you would have done it, like, if you didn't know?
Oh, no, I think as soon as I would have collapsed.
Yeah. And so, where's your mind in terms of, like, when you're in the hospital and you've had the surgery, like, do you start planning your recovery and your comeback?
I always let myself have a couple of days of darkness.
Yeah,
I think that's really important. Like, admitting how disappointed you feel, before you feel proactive, before you feel like going back, because they were big injuries that I had.
Yeah.
After my first break in 2010 in Lake Louise, I didn't walk for 14 months. My leg was really not in a great place, and that was hard, really hard.
Did you try to keep cardiovascular health over that?
Oh yeah, massively. Yeah. I did loads. I did dancing on ice because I knew that it would help me with my flats. So by that point, I was really in tune with what I needed as an athlete, and I knew that if I could never ski a flat fast, I would never be very good. I knew I could do it on the steep, so I was like, right, I had this opportunity to skate. And learning how to skate on a blade this big would really help my skiing.
So dancing on ice was in a period between injury and the comeback?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was it like did you know how to skate beforehand?
No, I used to do rollerblade sprints in the park.
Yeah.
Well, I remember the first time I skated, they're like, what are you doing with your hands? I was like, oh, I'm holding ski poles. I had no finesse. I mean, I didn't have any finesse when I finished the show either. But no, I wanted to learn a new sport. I wanted to do something that would help me get back to skiing. It was not a means to become a celebrity. And I was really clear the whole way along that I was doing this to get back to being a skier. I wanted to improve my profile, get a sponsor, and get healthier. And you get physio twice a day. Amazing physio on that show.
Wow.
So I ended dancing on ice the tour healthier than I started, whereas most people go the other way.
Go the other way, yeah. So was that an easy decision to make to do the show?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because of those reasons. Yeah.
And I felt I couldn't ski at the time. This is probably quite important because the brake was low in the boot. I still had really sore pressure, whereas the ice skating boot came below it.
Okay.
So I didn't have the pressure on where the brake was. So it was like, right, okay, I can do something that's going to enhance my skiing and blah blah.
And then because you said, like, you had a need to be good, to be competent at a skill set when you take your hands to it.
I didn't come across attractive on telly because I think I really wanted to be good at a sport. I didn't see the entertainment side. I wasn't good at the entertainment side, the dancing. I just thought it was an amazing opportunity to be coached by world-class people and, to have training every single day to learn a new sport. I mean, that's heaven for an athlete.
Yeah. And all the while knowing that you're on your kind of like a comeback trail. Yeah.
And it would help me.
Yeah.
And it was fun.
Yeah.
It was this like escapism. I'd been through this 14 months of hell. And I was like, oh, and now I'm able to do something completely different.
And then once you'd finished your kind of recovery, what was the psychology of going back after such a bad injury?
Well, I think dancing on ice helped as well because I remember being so nervous. The first show I skated out and they were like, right, we've got 11 million viewers. And I'm like, what? I'm a ski racer. In Eurosport, we get 100,000 world champs, Olympics, whatever. And we had that many. So it really helped with my nerves because I was completely out of my comfort zone. And that's what it was like when I came back to the sport as well. So it really helped. Really helped.
But then was there an expectation on you, because they associate the winter sports, that one would translate to the other? Was there pressure?
But I mean, I was a downhiller by then.
Yeah. I
threw myself at 90 miles an hour down a hill. I did not do any dancing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just, I was so fortunate that slotted into that time. If I didn't have dancing on ice, I don't know about how I would have, if I could have made that last Olympics.
So it was extremely helpful timing, yeah.
And all because I, BBC Sports personality, when I was injured, I ended up having a coffee at midnight with Chris and Jane, and we had some great banter.
And that's how it came about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think they took a risk. You know, I wasn't well known. They put me forward to the show. Yeah.
And then in terms of, because I think, is it true that you've had 49 broken bones?
So I've broken 49 bones. Obviously, a few of them are shattered, so multiple injuries.
Breaks. Yeah. So when did you kind of decide that your body had been through?
I didn't want to go to 50.
Didn't want to get to the 50.
I got told. I'd love to sit here and say, yeah, I put my hands up. There was a light bulb moment. But actually, after the Sochi Olympics, I went. Everyone thought I was going to retire after Sochi. And at Sochi, I'd skied 4 minutes before I got to the Olympics. And in the Olympics, it was 1.8 seconds off. And I came 18th, and I had really good split sections. And I was like, you know what? I'm still fast. I can still do this. So as opposed to announcing my retirement in the finish, I announced that I wanted to keep going. And then the next race after that was a World Cup in Crans-Montana in Switzerland. And I really don't like the hill. I've never liked the hill. And I crashed there again. And I went to see my same surgeon in Zurich because my leg felt terrible. And I was seeing him on the way up to Sweden for another race. And I was quite aggressive. I was like, I need to see you now because I've got the flight tomorrow morning and, I just want to check everything's okay. And I went to see him. He said, listen, Chemmy, you did great at the Olympics. And I put a lot of effort into doing that surgery so that you could race. But you've got to think about your body. He said, if I crashed with this 15-inch metal nail in my bone marrow now, things would get really bad. If that metal breaks, then my leg from my knee down is gone.
Wow.
And he put it so black and white. And as much as I love racing, hopefully you've gathered this, I love skiing. I've married a ski racer. We go in, my best days are when we just go and charge the mountain together, and we go heli skiing, and all these amazing opportunities we have just to be in the mountains. And yes, racing was a big part of that, but I can still do a lot of it without racing. So he said that to me, and it kind of put things in perspective. And I was like, right, okay, I need to walk away. And so it was taken out of my hands, which I needed.
Did that make it easier?
Oh, yeah. Otherwise, I'd still be racing now because I love it. Yeah. And
then, so knowing that you're retiring from competition, did you, because you've now cultivated a broadcasting career, was that something that you had one eye on before?
I knew I loved telly. Having done Ski Sunday interviews, I'd done a little bit of TV broadcasting during my career, a little bit of guest hosting and podcasting, things like that, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought, you know what, if my passion can convey itself through a camera, then I can promote women's ski racing, I can promote women's sport, which I've always been passionate about. So yes, that the opportunity arose quite quickly. I was really lucky and grateful for.
And was that a new skill set that you had to learn, or did that come quite naturally in terms of presenting and public speaking?
Public speaking is a different side. Yeah. So I got into that because people liked my story and thought I could help people.
Yeah.
And I was petrified. As much as I loved chatting, standing in front of a crowd when I was younger, I remember we used to have to do it at school, and it would be the worst week of my life every year. And so I had to learn to love that, but it was the feedback I got from people that motivated me, and now I love doing it.
Do you get a buzz from doing it?
I get a buzz from doing it. I get a buzz from hearing what a client, so a school or a corporate, their issues are, and thinking, oh my God, even though I'm a skier and you guys are an accountancy firm, I can help you with your risk management and with your marginal gains, with your fear. And I think it's because I didn't achieve that I'm better. I don't go in there and say, hey, I'm Chemmy Alcott and I want a gold medal. Because that's, 99% of people don't understand that kind of dedication it takes to win. I go in there and say, I have learned more through my mistakes and all my failings than anything I actually achieved in sport. And that is because I wasn't afraid to take a risk after I'd committed to 100%. And I think because of that honesty, I can really help people.
It's a disarming honesty.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are leaving a lot kind of behind in terms of their ability to commit 100% to set up a business.
So many people live within themselves.
Yeah.
I now do a bit of life coaching, and I see amazing, remarkable people, but who just aren't afraid to push that ceiling of their capability. So I'm like, you never know what you could do because they're comfortable. And we are so comfortable in life. And I still make mad choices. I still take big risks. I'm sitting here talking to you, and in a month, I'm going to be working in Sweden with my family. I haven't even got the baby out yet. I don't even know if he's going to come on time. But I've got to push myself because I know that I will be a better mum because of it. Because I don't want to be comfortable. I've seen so many people, even people who look like they're achieving loads, but how unsatisfying for them to not go to bed every night knowing that they've done their best. They've done just under their best. And I think because I did that for 8 years and then made that decision, or was in a place where I could push myself, I can help a few more people.
And you think it's important to push yourself to a point where
you make a mistake.
You make a mistake.
Massively.
You fail at something, you find your ceiling. Yeah.
There's these dangerous schools now that they don't want to pinpoint winners or losers at school. They treat everyone the same.
Yeah, or even have a best friend.
Yeah. I think it's really dangerous. I think that, life is about making mistakes, losing, picking yourself up and going again.
Yeah.
And dreaming bigger. And what are we doing if we take that away from a young age?
Yeah, and that's what the real world is based on, whether it be sports or starting a business or,
Driving, learning to drive. How many people fail first time? If you've never learnt to fail, then it breaks you.
Yeah. It's a good analogy, really, because you're going to just say, okay, I failed my driving test for the first time, I'm not going to drive now.
I'm going to inhibit the rest of my life because of that.
Yeah. Do you see that in people that you life coach and in athletes? And is there a different strategy to kind of unlock or get them to face that fear? Is it different?
Yeah, I see a lot of athletes like me whose nerves block them in races or competition. The thing is, at that very top end, you've got to learn to help yourself. This growth mindset isn't something I could talk to them about it left, right and centre. I could give them exercises left, right and centre, but they've got to believe it. And that's the hardest thing. Like you just need to instill the confidence in them, the self-belief in them, to just one time try it. Because once you've tried it once, that's it.
Yeah. Once you
never go back. Even if it doesn't have the outcome first time that you're expecting, even if you don't win, you make a mistake, you know in your heart that you've gone out there and charged as hard as you can.
It feels right in your body, doesn't it?
Right,
you know when you're kind of you kind of resonate and it kind of feels congruent that I left it all on the table today and that was it. Yeah. Okay. And then in terms of like your transition from being an athlete to motherhood, has that been a smooth transition, or
no?
Like you were saying earlier, like you have to be quite, in a way, selfish as an athlete to make sure that you get your recovery, you get the right nutrition, but it all changes
massively. Being an athlete is an amazing profession, amazing life choice. You put yourself first, especially an individual sporting athlete. It's about you. How can I be my best? How can the team around me help me be my best? What can I put into my body to be my best? Blah, blah. And then you become a mum and you are second rate. You don't even think about yourself. How can I make this little person happy? How can I make them safe? How can I enhance them, give them confidence? You don't think about you at all. Like last night, I'm 9 months pregnant and my toddler is in bed with us. He's not sleeping well. And so every 2 hours I wake up and support him. It doesn't matter what I need. Even though I'm caring for someone else, you just literally, your needs are completely out the window.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I thought being a ski racer from London, I had a hard job. I thought, this, I've done. But being a mother, and especially at times I have to be a single mother because my husband's out in the mountains working. He's been away for 5 weeks, so it's just been me alone with this toddler. It's brutal. There are the most amazing women out there who are handling it and handling all the pressure and killing it, doing so well without any support. And I have hats off to them, because I think before I was like, being a mum, it's natural, it's amazing. It's not. It's really hard. To be a good mum is really hard. You can plug your kid in front of the TV and, exist and have you time, fine. But then you're not doing the best always.
So you have to be switched on all the time.
And don't get me wrong, I've had, over the last 5 weeks, I've had to do that. There's a TV show movie called Storks, which is about these birds carrying babies. And my philosophy was that at least it's kind of teaching him that he's getting a baby brother. But, you know, every day I needed some time to clean the house, get work done, things like that. And I had to do that. And it's a really hard existence being a mum because you feel guilty about everything. Everyone has an opinion. When you're pregnant, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be lifting those weights. Listen, you don't know me. You don't know that I've done this for 20 years. My body's completely used to this. Hey, you shouldn't be skiing at 6 months pregnant. Well, I've also been doing that my whole life. I'm probably better at skiing than I am walking across a road. Just all the time. I wouldn't do that with my kid. And it's just judgment after judgment, and we're all different. And you have to have so much confidence as a parent that you are doing the right thing for you and your family. And that takes more confidence than being an athlete, more. Because no one understood me being a ski racer from London. They were less judgmental. Everyone understands being a parent.
So everybody has an opinion.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think, as you say, like as coming from a high performance athlete, your frame of reference for what you were capable of is different.
Yeah.
So in terms, do you look forward and sort of with your son kind of think like, at what point will I introduce some kind of like physical challenges, or is that happening already?
I mean, I've noticed that my Lockie is really physical. If I don't take him for a long walk before his dinner every night, he won't sleep that night. If we just sit and hang out and play Lego, he needs more than that. He's very physical. I think that he's got that DNA from us. Very vivacious and gets very frustrated when that's taken away. I have started doing gymnastics with him just because I think it's a really good sport for him to explore his body awareness, challenge himself psychologically. There's a great setup because you go and he's almost 2 and there's other kids there who are 4, but they all play together and Lockie doesn't know that kid's more developed than him. So he goes and tries to jump into the foam pit, do the same thing. And I think they respond so well off each other. And the thing is, he doesn't go to nursery, so he doesn't have that continuous, right, this is how old I am, this is where I should be at, ever. He comes on our camps with us, and our youngest athlete is 9, 10, and they're 16 years old. And he calls them, hey guys. He thinks he's one of the guys.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, you're a baby. Those guys are big.
So his frame of reference or expectations from himself he's going to be.
Yeah, and I think that's something we need to manage. But yeah, I mean, I know that there's some things he actually recently, I don't know, with Dougie being away, he's been much more kind of mummy. You go on that slide, and then I'll follow you down. He's needed me as a reference point, which has been harder because I keep getting stuck on slides, left, right, centre. But I think that's important as well. I think it's important to, as they grow, fear has to come in at some point. We want it to, otherwise he'll be a nutter. But it's about him exploring that fear.
Yeah, so feeling the fear, but allowing to keep moving forward even with the fear present. Yeah. And then we did touch briefly off camera about the nutritional choices you made in terms of fertility and to fall pregnant. So when did you know that that would be a kind of a choice to make? Well,
I remember when we decided to start trying. We're both athletes. We think that if we put in hard work, you get results, right?
Yeah.
So.
And also, as an athlete, I imagine there's a
control.
An internal locus of control. Like, what are the variables I can change? Because then I can change the outcome.
So we booked a holiday to Bali when we knew that I would be ovulating, and we're like, right, we'll go and make a baby.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen then, and it didn't happen for 17 more months, and it was so tough. I mean, some of the months we were apart, but it was so tough because everything else in my life, I felt like, well, I know that if I do this, this is going to happen. If I go and lift more weights, I'm going to get stronger and my skin's going to get better. If we get it on then, we should make a baby. It doesn't happen. It's amazing. It's science. There's natural, but you've got to chill out. And I wasn't chilling out. And it was a really brutal time because every month, just before you get your period, you have the same symptoms as if you were early pregnant. So I would convince myself, because I've got the power of the mind, that every month I was pregnant, which meant I was get disappointed every month as well, because I was failing.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you would consider it a failure?
Yeah. And then I completely looked into what I can do to help. I used a lot of caffeine in my career to peak for performance, especially when I was a tech racer. And I love coffee. And alcohol was never a consideration. It was not something that I thought was affecting our fertility at all, because we're not big drinkers. But I definitely was still enjoying a lot of coffee. And I went to see this acupuncturist who was a fertility expert. And I remember I'd had 2 days off beforehand, which is unheard of for me. 2 days
Two
off.
Rest days.
2 rest days.
Yeah.
And I went and lay down on his couch, and he started taking my rhythms of my heart rates. And he was like, "Oh my God, your adrenals are mental right now. You're in fight or flight mode." And I was like, No, I'm on the verge of falling asleep. I'm super chilled. He's like, "If this is you super chilled, then there is no way you can get pregnant." Because my body was still in that excited, like, got to do this and this and this, and I've got to live at this 100% and blah, blah. So there's no way we could get pregnant, because I was still busy doing everything. Fighting, flighting.
So you had that low-level stress response constantly?
Yeah, constantly. And I remember going, he must have got this wrong, because I feel so relaxed. And then, we worked together for, I think it was around 5 months. I kept doing tests. I kept saying I was negative. And then I went to him, and I'd just done a test beforehand, because I think I booked to host a heli ski trip or something. And I was like, right, I just need to check that we're not pregnant, because I can't do that. So I'd done this test, and it said I was negative. And again, I was disappointed. But by this point, you get a bit more used to it. And I went to see this acupuncturist, and I lay there, and he's like, "Oh, something's different in your body." So, "Have you done a pregnancy test recently?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "I'm not pregnant." And he said, "Oh, I don't really believe that." And I was like, "Well, literally, Ross, it was 2 days ago." And he's like, "I think you're pregnant." Oh, okay, whatever. And anyway, Dougie flew that night away to do this quite high-level instructor exam. And his exam was on the Friday, and I waited 3 more days, but what Russ had said kept playing in my head. And on the Friday, I did another test, and it was positive. And I called Dougie, and he was about to head out for the run that he was being assessed on, that he'd worked. And I was like, "You'll never believe this, we're pregnant." And we were so excited, but then he was just like, oh my God, I need to refocus, blah, blah, blah. So Ross was right, and I was pregnant. Yeah, and it was amazing. And then got really lucky with the pregnancy. Terrible birth. Well, wanted to control the birth. Wanted to have a water birth. Wanted to have an active birth. Didn't happen. Had to shock finesse. I've been in loads of Pilates reformer. Because I don't want that to happen again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what I was going to ask you, actually. Like, so now, moving forward, all things being equal, how would you plan your kind of week in terms of training and rest? Do you do things like meditation, Pilates, yoga to have a bit more of that balance? And then running your business, are you able to do some of your coaching remotely, or like how?
I'm holding on by the skin of my teeth.
Yeah,
is the honest answer. I think having a 2-year-old who, I don't want to sacrifice him and his needs, so I give him so much. And then my stress levels are quite high. I cry at the moment. I cry quite easily because I miss my mum. My mum passed away when I was younger, and both pregnancies, during the end of it, I've really missed her, because I need someone just to tell me to stop. But I can't stop, because if I stop, I feel like Lockie's missing out. So 2 days ago, I was on the trampoline with him. I know I shouldn't be doing it, but he needs it. He wants to do it. And then, with the business, I get up before Lockie gets up in the morning, do emails, do work. But it's also quite satisfying, because I know I'm on my limit. Mm-hmm. And I know that this isn't the time of my life I should be on my limit. I'm about to have number 2. I need to rest. But I think that I think my body's so used to working at this intensity and this high stress. I'm really bad at stopping. On days that I get help, on 3 days a week, I get help. Everyone's like, "Oh, do you just chill out?" And I'm like, "Oh no, I just sit there, tap away. Then I try and go for a cycle, or try and do some my meditation's even stressful because I try and fit that in. I've got chairs upstairs that we put on our wedding list just for us to meditate in. They're called our meditation chairs on our balcony, 5 minutes a day.
Yeah.
I think we've been married now for 4 years. I think we've both used them 3 times. But they're amazing at sunset. But sunset's not a good time day for me because I'm doing something. Yeah. But yeah, I wish I was better at it. But I also feel like I get so much done. I love it when people say to me, oh my God, I'm looking at Instagram stories. How the hell did you do that? For me, that's an achievement. They're not. They're saying it like, you need to be careful. You need to take care of yourself. But because I've got this athlete mentality, I'm like, oh, look, I'm doing awesome. Mm. But yes, I need to get on top of that.
And then
it's my weakness.
To push too hard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. To be on that knife edge of...
Yeah.
But
it's not a normal life, this.
No.
You know?
Your frame of reference is so
like,
high up.
You know, everyone's saying, you're going back to work on the beginning of February to work in TV, you're going to have a complete newborn and a toddler. And I'm like, yeah, but I can do it. And also maybe there's a weird satisfaction in seeing if I can handle that challenge. Because it is mental. You know, I know friends who don't leave the house for the first couple of weeks. And I'm going to be on a plane going to Sweden. But I think that's why Lockie's so happy, because he sees that I am pushing myself and keeping my passions alive.
Mm. Does it echo that ability that when you unlocked your ability to give 100%, is that kind of echoed in other aspects of your life?
But maybe this is the time to not be at 100%. Mm. Maybe I should be functioning around 50 and giving myself 50% recovery. But I'm not that person. Maybe when the kids grow up and we retire. Dougie's changed as well. He used to be more that person. He used to be better at chilling out. And now he gets a big guilt as well. He's like, oh, I haven't done as much as I could have done today.
Yeah.
Because I think he sees me just going, I'm a nightmare to live with for sure. He does so well putting up with me. But yeah. I know who I am. And I know that that's not always a positive. Mm. Some people go, oh my God, you get so much done. Is that good? What am I sacrificing? My adrenals.
Adrenals, yeah. So do you feel like it almost kind of, because you're both athletes,
Sorry, it's my tummy.
Because you're both athletes, you know, you have that understanding of that drive.
Yes.
And it's easier to work with one another in that sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard having a marriage and a business together. Really hard, because the first thing that you sacrifice is time talking about how you're feeling. You go, right, you heard me then. I have, just before I came in here, I haven't seen him for a week. And I'm like, right, this is what the business needs today. And he's like, this is what I need to do. You know, possibly we should maybe go for a date lunch and hang out and catch up. And that's the first thing that goes. But we know it. And we know that these years where we're trying to do everything, we're going to be tough. And we've had very honest discussions about that. But we also know that it's not sustainable. And, in a few years, when the boys go to school, that's when we go, right, the time that we're not coaching is the time that we're together again.
Because you're building a family, you're building a business in these years.
Yeah.
And it has that almost helped, like that, coming from the sporting background, to almost be able to macro cycle a family in that sense.
Yeah. I think it's a juggle, a constant juggle, and you make mistakes and you learn your skills in the family, you learn your position in the family. I didn't realise that I would become so much the mum and Dougie would be the dad, in terms of roles in the house, although Dougie does all the cooking and things like that, but he does so much more for me. That's why I struggle when he's away, because we're 50-50 in it, takes on that role so well. And if I had an old school husband who didn't change nappy, I mean, I still have friends whose other halves don't change nappies. And I'm like, oh my God, I mean, we couldn't exist.
They don't end up doing it, or they point blank. They choose not to. Don't do it. Yeah.
That's not their role.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Dougie sees me, when I go back to work, he knows that he's got an end in a couple of weeks, so he's going to be primary carer, although I'm breastfeeding, so it's very much a joint team. I could not do it without him, and I couldn't do it with someone who wasn't as, I don't want to say modern, but as, you know, equal and supportive of me and my career.
Mm. And did you know that about each other going in?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you get a feel for that.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been quite a strong, right, I want to do my dreams. What are your dreams? How can we make this work together?
Yeah.
Not, how can we sacrifice one of our dreams? Nah.
Yeah. And as you have children, do you sit down and have a conversation, or are you cognizant of the fact that, like, each of us has a relationship with our children, but we also have a relationship with each other?
Yeah, but that's what we sacrifice first.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I say sacrifice, not really fight, we just don't give each other enough time. And we know that. We know that that's on our very high up on our to-do list.
Like, it's going to be down the line. Yeah.
But you know, we have also been quite indulgent when we were both athletes, and you know, we would get to spend every day together. We would go to the gym together. We would cycle together. Mm. You know, so it's kind of life's paving its way, finding its equilibrium.
Yeah. So in the early stages, you had like a lot of that quality time.
Oh, loads. Yeah.
You know, life comes in different cycles. Yeah. Okay. And there's something I wanted to ask you about. I was reading that you're fascinated by sporting biographies.
Yes.
Is there? Were you able to utilize the vicariously some of the stories and advice in those for your performances?
Almost. It was a negative effect at the beginning, because I had an amazing supportive family growing up, and I had talent. I didn't feel like I had a reason to have the psychological edge, because I hadn't had to overcome any adversity. And I was reading all these books about all these legends, and everyone had a story, had, you know, some kind of tragedy almost that they'd had to overcome to make them stronger than everyone else. And I didn't have that. Mm. And then a few things happened, and I, you know, it's not like willed that to happen, but anytime anything went off track with my life, I realised that these were the moments to be stronger. You know, your mum dying when you're 22 years old, overnight, you didn't get to say goodbye, is really tough. And I grew up so much, and I learnt so much about who she taught me to be, and believe in my dreams, because those dreams are, you know, it's such a fast evolving world where anything can happen. And I didn't have that when I was growing up. I just had this bubble of, I was made to be a skier, and everything was ticking every box. And because of that, I felt like I couldn't be my best.
Mm. Because you hadn't grown up with a chip, so to speak.
Yeah. Like Cecily Redgrave went to the wrong school, you know. That so everyone had a reason to be the best, and had something that they were fighting against. And I didn't. I just had this flowery world of support for a while.
But then, as life
evolved, and I grew older, and things happen, you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about how important it was to have that support, and not be thrown in at the deep end when you're really young and you're not capable of handling adversity. And I learned way more through every trial, through every hurdle. And I was at the point where I could learn. I didn't just see them as barriers. I saw, right, okay, this is brutal. My mum, you know, she was one of my best friends. She was my driving force, and she's gone. But what would she want? She's 59 years old. She wouldn't want to be old, but what would she want me to do for her? And how would she want me to honour her, I guess.
And that became a driving force.
Oh, yeah, forward. It still is. It still is, yeah. I mean, she was a nutter. I definitely turned into her. Which I always said I wouldn't, but I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. She lived so much in her years. The one thing she missed was her grandkids, because my brothers hadn't had kids when she passed away. That was the one thing. Everything else, she lived so hard, and she did so much. But that was the one thing I feel like she missed out on.
Mm. And have you, observing the way she lived, is that maybe an influence of you packing so much into life as well?
Yeah, maybe there's that fear that I won't be here tomorrow, so I've got to do everything today.
Mm. Which in a way almost helps to appreciate everything in the now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you have that
Yeah, it does. It does. It means you get stuff done.
Yeah. I really appreciate you telling us your story. What's the best way for people to get in contact or to look at what you're doing at the moment in terms of projects? And
I guess social media. I'm quite active on social media. I'm doing my own ski racing podcasts, but I'm going to go more into lifestyle because I think that, you know, all these life lessons I learn and my own stories, I've got to have confidence that they will affect someone positively. I started with talking about ski racing because that's where my knowledge is. But I feel like, you know, even talking to you, I've got all these stories that could support people to be their best.
Yeah, 100%.
To find that capability and that fear level and then smash through it.
Yeah, it translates to life, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Business, relationships.
Exactly. Sport, it does empower you to do that. So that I will be hopefully presenting Ski Sunday a bit more. And then just, I mean, my life is a wild ride where I don't even know what I'm doing. I literally look at my diary every single day because if I focus on what I'm doing next week, I get too stressed because there's too much on. So I'm a day by day.
Oh, you live day to day?
Yeah. I mean, I say that. I booked like flights for our family and for this little guy who doesn't have a name now for the next 3 months. And every flight I have has an ostrich on, and I have to go, oh God, make sure you put the baby's name on once the baby has a name.
Yeah.
So there's some things have to be planned, but you know, the important things and being able to live in the present is something that I really strive to do because I'm doing too much otherwise.
Yeah. And what was the heli skiing that you have booked?
So I'm hosting a heli ski trip with James Orr. That's at the beginning of March. So that's not that long away.
Yeah, that sounds like an adventure. Amazing
adventure. Yeah, that's really important for me to do because there's not a lot of women who believe that they can heli ski. It's very much a male dominated environment, and I want to show that, especially a woman who's just had a baby, that I'm strong enough physically and mentally to still go out there and charge.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Chemmy.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe to the channel for more long-form interviews and actionable tips for all things psychology, health and business.